Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on March 31st, and the Jodi Wilson-Reybould taped telephone conversation with Michael Wernick. Oh my God. That is going to be the topic of conversation this evening. So a very warm welcome to all of you who are returning to the channel, and a great big shout out to any first time visitors. I hope you will enjoy the content, and also like, comment and subscribe below. Okay, so we all know about the SNC-LAVELIN scandal by now, no doubt, and I will link below a background on that if you want to go check it out. Now, the bombshell that has happened this week is that Jodi Wilson-Reybould, who was the former Attorney General and Justice Minister in the Liberal government, has revealed a taped telephone conversation with Michael Wernick, who is the head of the Privy Council, and it basically shows exactly how she was pressured by the Prime Minister's office to cut a deal with SNC-LAVELIN by giving them a deferred prosecution. Now, I don't want to go too long into this because it's quite a long phone call and I want to cover most of it, but I would like to set this up by saying that SNC-LAVELIN have a history of corruption and bribery charges against them, two of which happened in Canada, one with the Jacques Cartier Bridge and the other one with McGill Hospital, and one led to prosecution, the other one didn't. The other thing I'd like to say is that the Chief Prosecutor for the government, now that's not Jodi Wilson, she's the Attorney General, the Chief Prosecutor had decided that she was not going to give SNC-LAVELIN a deferred prosecution option. They knew that tool was there, and she had decided not to do that. And so for Jodi Wilson-Reybould to step in would mean she would have to overstep the judgment of her chief prosecutor. And this would have, of course, been and looked like political interference in a judicial matter, which is an absolute no-no. And you can see that Jodi is actually trying to protect the Prime Minister, and it is Michael Wernick who keeps pressuring, ignoring her warnings, keeps just going on like the Energizer Bunny to get her to change her mind. Okay, so let's flip over and we'll go through this phone call. I'm going to talk you through parts of it. I may have to cut parts of it, but I will leave the phone call in its entirety in the links below. And when we've done that, I'll come back and do a very quick wrap up. Okay, here we go.
So there's a lot of anxiety, like another rising anxiety, as you can imagine, about signature firm and job loss and all that coming after the Oshawa thing and what's going on in Calgary and whatnot. So the PM wants to be able to say that he has tried everything he can, within a legitimate toolbox to try to head that off. So he's quite determined, quite firm, that he wants to know why the DPA route, which Parliament provided for, isn't being used. And I think he's going to find a way to get it done one way or another. So he's in that kind of mood, and I wanted you to be aware of that.
The PM's going to get it done one way or another. Over your dead body, Jody, is what the message is going on there.
Okay. So I don't know if he's going to call you directly. He might. And he's willing, I think he's thinking about getting somebody else to give him some advice. He doesn't want to do anything that's outside the box of what's legal or proper. But his understanding is, the DPA tool is there, and you have options that we've talked about before to ask for reasoning from the DPP, or even to take over the prosecution of he just wants to understand more at this point why the DPA route isn't being taken up in this route. So he's thinking about bringing in somebody like Bev McLaughlin to give him advice on this, or to give you advice to make, if you want to feel more comfortable that you're not doing anything that's inappropriate or outside the frame.
Now, I would say that Jody has made it pretty clear in that statement. Now, we're only 4 minutes into the phone call, and this goes on for 17 minutes, where she has to repeat herself over and over again.
100% competent. I'm doing nothing inappropriate.
Yeah. No, but would not be if you decided to use some of these tools under the law. Because I think he feels the government has to have done everything it can before we lose 9,000 jobs in a signature Canadian firm.
Right. So, I'm confident in where I'm at, and my views on SNC and the DPA haven't changed. This is a constitutional principle of prosecutorial independence that, Michael, I have to say, including this conversation, previous conversations that I've had with the Prime Minister and many other people around it, it's entirely inappropriate, and it is political interference. And the Prime Minister obviously can talk to whomever he wants, but what I am trying to do is to protect him. I can have a conversation with Beverly McLaughlin. I can call her right now. I'm just issuing the strongest warning I can possibly issue that decisions that are made by the independent prosecutor are their decisions. We gave her and them the tools, the additional tools. I made it very clear at the cabinet table and in other places that these tools are the discretion of the prosecutor, and everybody agreed to that, and there was no guarantee that there would be a DPA in this or any other case. So we were treading on dangerous ground here, so I'm going to issue my stern warning, because I can't act in a manner, and the prosecution can't act in a manner that is not objective, that isn't independent. I can't act in a partisan way, and it can't be politically motivated. All of this screams of that. So I'm actually uncomfortable having this conversation, but I'm happy to talk to you. I'll call Beverly McLaughlin. I can't even imagine her feeling in any way, shape, or form comfortable with interfering with the independent prosecutor.
Okay, that's strike two, Michael. What are you going to say now?
Okay, but I mean, I think that's where people are talking past each other. I mean, I think the view that he's formed, which I think I share, I'm not the lawyer in any of these conversations, and Elder and others.
No, Michael, I think you got that wrong. I think it is you who is talking past each other. You're the one who's not listening. Listen up, buddy.
It's not interference. The statute specifically has these other provisions in it that allow you to ask questions of the DPP. That's provided for. It's not interference.
But I would have to issue a directive. I would have to gazette this. The prosecutor, the director, whom I know and understand after having several conversations with her about another directive on HIV that I issued, she is a by-the-book person. If this is gazetted, this will be, and this is not, and I hear you on the jobs and wanting to save jobs. I mean, we all want to do that. This goes far beyond saving jobs. This is about the integrity of the Prime Minister and interference. There's no way that anybody would interpret this other than interference if I was to step in. It doesn't matter how I would look in doing that. I mean, I'd be a mockery, and that's not the problem. The bigger problem is what it would look like down the road for the government. It's not about jobs, and I know the jobs are important, so I don't want anybody to misinterpret that I don't care about those jobs. This is about the integrity of the government and recognizing that there is the ability to issue a directive under the Act. It is still, irrespective of the ability that I have to do that, one, it's never been done before, but two, this is going to look like nothing but political interference by the Prime Minister, by you, by everybody else that's been involved in this, politically pressuring me to do this.
Well,
I feel like I actually really feel uncomfortable having this conversation because it's wrong And I hear, and the Prime Minister obviously can call me. Like I said to you, I will have I'm going to call Beverly McLaughlin and have a conversation about her with her.
Well, I mean, of course it hasn't been done before because Parliament only created the instrument barely a year ago. So
No. This instrument was, you mean the directive. The directive on a specific prosecution has never occurred, and this happened because Harper brought this law in, as you probably know, 10 years ago. The directive the DPA has never been used because it just entered the criminal code back in September. So I understand that this is the first case. The prosecutor sent me what's called a Section 13. You told me that you hadn't seen it before, but I've read it and I've reread it, and the Prime Minister's office has a copy of it. She explains in it why she's not doing it in this case. I have to be, unless it's something outrageous, comfortable with the decision, recognizing it's the first one, likely, and obviously I'm confident, wasn't entered into lightly, made the decision not to enter into a DPA with respect to this case. And she explained why.
So when did she convey that to you?
She issued the Section 13 back in September when I was down in Australia for whatever that, for the Five Eyes. And then all this I have a timeline of every single conversation and everything that everybody's said to me on this. So I'm surprised that you and I are having this conversation, but I'm just saying that I really feel uncomfortable and about the appropriateness of this conversation.
Okay, I understand that. I think his view is he's not asking you to do anything appropriate or to interfere. He's asking you to use all of the tools that you lawfully have at your disposal.
I know I have a tool under the Prosecution Act that I can use. I do not believe it is appropriate to use it in this case.
Yep, and there's still enough time for just one more threat, eh, Michael? Let her have it.
Okay. All right. Then that's clear. He's in a very firm mood about this. So
does he understand the gravity of what this potentially could mean? This is not just about saving jobs. This is about interfering with one of our fundamental institutions. This is like breaching a constitutional principle of prosecutorial independence. So I
don't think he's used it as that.
Well, then nobody's explaining that to him, Michael. Like this is we can stand up in the House of Commons and on Norman, on totally appropriately on Norman, on extradition, and we can talk about the rule of law. The cases aren't dissimilar. The principle or the integrity of how we act and respond to the tools that we have available and what we should and shouldn't do. I don't know.
Okay. No, I respect where you're coming from. I just think...
You know what? I hope that you do, because I don't think anybody respects this. I mean, the conversation that Jerry and Katie had with my chief of staff, and I have it, like, she wrote down what they said, like saying that they don't want to have anything or hear any more about the legalities, but want to talk about jobs. Entirely inappropriate.
Okay, well, I wasn't...
Well, I have it. I have it all. It's just...
Okay, but you're not just the Attorney General, you're the Minister of Justice in the Cabinet, and that you have context within which you exercise your roles and responsibilities. Like, I'm not seeing anything inappropriate here, but you're right. No, and the PM, I think people are talking past each other. I think the way he sees it and the advice he's getting is that you still have things that you can do that are not interference and are still very much lawful. So
it's not that they're not lawful. The perception and what will happen is it will be deemed political interference from day one, when people were talking about why are we entering into or putting a DPA regime in place. Everybody knows it was because of SNC. Whether that's true or not, that's what people think. Whether
it's a tool used in lots of other countries, though,
Fair.
for these kinds of purposes, and especially if there's been a change of ownership or management of the company that's being prosecuted. I mean, it is a public policy tool.
Fair, but in our MCs all the way up, and in the law that we changed, we gave the Director of Public Prosecutions the discretion to enter into the DPAs and a judge to oversee the regime. There is no guarantee in any particular case, this one or the ones that will come, that they'll enter into the DPAs or think it's appropriate to do so. And that's what we consciously made the decision on when we decided as a cabinet to enter into this process, and I amending the law.
Is that clear now, Michael?
Is there anybody that can talk to Kathleen about the context around this, or to get her to explain why she's not? I mean, I guess the company has dealt with her directly, but
the company has. And Michael, there was a preliminary inquiry. I'm still trying to get an update on what happened at the preliminary inquiry. Like the suggestion that I made ages ago, which Jerry talked to you about in Montreal, was like if nobody from the company ever contacted me or sent me a letter expressing concern, had that happened, I would have done what I believed appropriate, would have been to forward that letter on to the Director of Public Prosecutions.
I think they made direct representations to the prosecutor, though, and they tried to make a public interest argument and so on and so on, but they get the impression they're not being listened to, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to report back I think, before he leaves. He's in a pretty firm frame of mind about this, though, so I'm a bit worried.
Bit worried about what?
Well, it's not a good idea for the Prime Minister and his Attorney General to be at loggerheads. It's just not,
Well, I feel that I'm giving him my best advice, and if he doesn't accept that advice, then it's his prerogative to do what he wants. But I am trying to protect the Prime Minister from political interference, or perceived or otherwise.
I understand that, but he doesn't have the power to do what he wants. All the tools are in your hands, so.
Okay, so then, I'm having like thoughts of like the Saturday Night Massacre here, Michael, like, to be honest with you. And this is not a great place for me to be in. I don't relish being in this place, but what I am confident of is that I've given the Prime Minister my best advice to protect him and to protect the constitutional principle of prosecutorial independence.
Okay. All right, but I'm worried about a collision then, because he's pretty firm about this. I mean, I just saw him a few hours ago, and this is really important to him. And okay.
A collision, Michael? What do you mean by a collision? Sounds like some kind of confrontation.
I don't know. There's not much more we can cover now then. I understand where you're coming from. The Section 13 argument or response from Kathleen, you're saying Elder has that, or had a version of that?
The Prime Minister's office has had it since September, since I've had it.
September. Okay. That's important. That's new to me, so, okay. All right.
They'll tell you that they haven't received a copy of it. Elder and Matthew said it to me when they came to my office. But we have documented evidence in terms of emails, etc., where that has been provided. So they do have it. Maybe they've misplaced it. I can send it back over to them, but I know that Jessica asked the other day when she was over at the PMO's office.
And what did they tell her? That they didn't have it, or they'd never seen it, or?
I'll have to ask. I'll tell you exactly what they said. I'll have to ask her.
I think, well, my advice is Jessica should send it to Elder then, just to make it like triply sure that they have it.
Okay, I'll get her to do that right now.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for calling me.
Thanks.
For calling back so quickly.
No problem.
And, we'll see. He's still around tomorrow. There's a number of things on the go right now. So.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, so I'm not under any illusion how the Prime Minister has and gets things that he wants. And
Gets things that he wants? how he gets things that he wants? Wow. That doesn't sound like a recommendation at all, does it?
I'm just stuck doing the best job that I can.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll talk again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, what I found interesting about the phone conversation is the way that Michael Wernick very cleverly says things in such a way that it's not a direct threat, but an implied threat, but a threat nonetheless. And this is a skillful way in which these senior civil servants try and stick handle the ministers of the different departments. And the question, of course, is who asked Michael Wernick to make that phone call? Was it the Prime Minister? I'm sure we will never know, but one thing for sure is that Michael Wernick had just had dinner with Justin Trudeau about 15 minutes before that phone call was made. So you can draw your own conclusions on that one. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. In the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off and wishing you a great week ahead, and we will be talking very, very soon. See you now. Bye.